I can record. Yeah. I forget to ask if everybody okay with like recording.
Oh, good question. I'm good.
If everybody.
Me too.
Okay. So, in a sense, like we planned for I think like more than a month, not from the last working group, but a working group before that, and we don't have like official agenda because I didn't set up a branch and nobody create PR for it. So like at some point we actually, it's good that we have recording. So I'm not sure if we need the notes. I think like second one would be more official and we will have like agenda and all the stuff. So it's better to start doing something than for it to be ideal. So one thing that we discussed on last working group is that working group should have a separate repos under GraphQL Foundation. So after this call, I will create it, and like ideally, if somebody volunteers to copy files from GraphQL working group main repo into here, like templates. So basically, copy templates and structure and like readme, maybe like change it to mention instead of GraphQL spec, mention GraphQL.js. I will, and let's use the same issue to coordinate. I think like for now, until we have a repo issue that we use to organize it with code is good. So
I'll add maybe just, I don't know if we like, maybe you can just open like a Google Docs just so we can type shit there. Like I opened this one. It's open for editing for everyone. So later on, maybe we'll close it. But for now that everyone in this meeting at least can write some stuff. And...
Yeah, agree. Good idea.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, especially if somebody, I always try to take notes because I'm not a native speaker, so it's harder for me. Or at least it's my excuse for not doing that. So yeah. Another, before we go around and introduce ourselves and mention what we want to discuss today, because we don't have agenda, one note is I only have 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half, but since it's the first one and in bootstrapping, that probably would be enough. So like let's target 1 hour from now, and if we overflow a little bit, I still have a time afterwards. Yeah, so let's start from me. Basically, I'm I would say, how to say, I'm a contractor for GraphQL Foundation, part-time. So it's like we discussed it, it's around 40 hours. And I help to maintain GraphQL.js for last 3 years. And that's basically it. So what I'm interested in, questions that hopefully everybody will answer in the turn is what I want to get from this working group is to, I think we never reach community, and it's better to reach it through more relaxed things than issues and like just technical stuff, and figure out some technical stuff. And we actually need to figure out how to switch it to community projects because it started as Facebook project when it was like nobody's project, when it's foundation project. So I think this should be a community project. So like we don't have agenda, so basically, like, I don't know, orders that Zuma showed us on a panel. Like, Uri, you can start them.
Oh, me first. Okay, so yeah, I'm Uli. So you said like introduce ourselves or something else?
Introduce and say what you want to get from this meeting, because
Okay.
we don't have an agenda. Since we don't have agenda,
Okay,
we
okay.
need to align our expectation.
Okay. That's a
Topic
good idea.
for it. If you don't have a particular topics, just like what you interested in.
Okay. So I'm Uli and I'm from the guild. We're a couple of people here from the guild. We maintain a couple of like GraphQL related open source libraries, and you know all of them are using GraphQL.js, and it's been amazing for us. And I think so. I guess the main thing that I would love would be to have kind of like a, let's say, a public roadmap. You know, where are we now? Where are we gonna be? What's the plans? You know, because I think once you have a plan, then you know it's a good thing for all the community to see where we're going, and also help people know where and how to contribute, and also maybe suggest other things. So have a public roadmap. I think it's like probably like a good idea. Another thing I would want to talk about is how can we, like, what does this mean? What does it mean to become a maintainer with GraphQL.js? Like, what are the, let's say, characteristics of a maintainer? Like, what does it mean to be a maintainer, and how can we find, and because I think that will maybe help us, you know, it's always good to get more maintainers, but then it's very hard to say, well, who's good enough or should be or shouldn't be. And I think having a like clear criteria would be great, because then, you know, I think it will open the doors for others as well. We would love to spend more time and help as much as we can. What else? Yeah, and I think those two are the main things that I think that will probably lead to a lot of other discussions. So yeah, so that's me.
At least for me, next in the order is Camille. Can you introduce and what topic you're interested in?
Oh, you mean Camille, right? Yeah, so I'm the member of the guild, pretty much. We work together for like, I don't know. I don't remember, since I was a kid, probably. Yeah, most interesting in the TypeScript integration. I mean, just to rewrite the code in TypeScript and just get the, you know, the native typings. So it's always in sync. And maybe for sure the roadmap, so it's clear, you know, what's coming on and how can we help, etc. And yeah, like what is basically what Uri said, which is how can we contribute, what are the rules, you know, this kind of stuff.
Okay, great. Marcelo, you the next.
Right, welcome. Sorry. Hi, everybody. My name is Marcelo. I use GraphQL.js on about 20 projects that I have running in production. We have a internal framework that we developed specifically for subscriptions in serverless environments. And we are targeting to open source this framework. And I'm especially interested in the roadmap for subscriptions.
It's good order, because Rob was the next in my line, and he actually responsible for stream and defer, which is related to subscription.
Yeah, Rob from First Dibs, been working on defer and stream. Wanted to talk about the PR for async intervals and defer and stream.
Yeah, Dotan, you're next. And by the way, if I mispronounce your name, feel free to correct me, because I'm like, GitHub don't provide transcription of your name.
Yeah, it's okay. It's Dotan. Hi everyone, I'm Dotan. I'm also a member of the guild. Mostly working in like the areas of work, open source. I'm mostly working on GraphQL.js. I would love if we'll have some time today to talk about what Uri suggested, specifically on what is the path or the process of becoming a maintainer or a collaborator on the GraphQL.js repo. And the other topic is TypeScript migration. I brought this up a few times, yeah, and just because we love TypeScript, and I know this is planned, and we would love to help and do whatever it needs. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I think everybody. Did I miss anybody?
If there's no one, then I forgot. I also wanted to add a point into there, which is the like ESM support.
Okay. It's actually related to TypeScript and so.
Yeah, sure.
So
okay, that's it for me.
Yeah, let's discuss it in order. Like from more generic to more specific, I would suggest, and let's time frame on items. So like let's discuss about contribution, how to become contributor, when TypeScript, and when what is blocked in different stream and subscription, because I actually like second and third related to first, to like how community can be involved, and ESM, and like after TypeScript ESM, and then stream defer, and have like 15 minutes each, and we will still fit. Yeah, so about maintenance, let's do it. I suggest like I voice what problem I see at the moment, and we can discuss how to solve them or different approaches. So like with new maintainers, it's, yeah, I tried a couple of times. One of the issue is like I learned you need to communicate with a person, because you never know, is it like sometimes person just want this change, so he don't want to learn stuff about your project or how to contribute or how to adhere like to standards. He just want this change to be pushed. And if you try to teach him, it's actually bad for both parties. He's like just want this thing to be merged, and you spend a lot of time like teaching him for stuff that he's not interested in. So it's helpful that actually it's very helpful that there is volunteers who want to do that, because it's more clear that way. One thing I would say is that like I have this idea that you should not change too many stuff at the same time. So like it's like repairing a plane in a flight. So I would say let's, so like I have a problem with PRs that try to change a lot or try to change processes. It's partly it's my processes in a sense, because like I'm like active contributor and I quickly match my own PRs. So like I'm not against changing like technical stuff and stuff, but I'm like, it shouldn't be the first PRs. When we onboard person and he learn how we do things, I'm totally open to change how we do things. I just think it's better to do them at the same time, onboarding person and changing how we do things. And it's related to my biggest struggle right now with like PRs is that we have this quality level, and you probably saw that we don't have bugs. Most of the feature requests are missing feature or like some problem with spec or somebody not implement something. We almost don't have bugs, and quality level is good. And I don't want to lower it. So one of the processes is to do small isolated commits that is easy to review. So and it's keep Git history clean. Because I'm like, for example, I'm not a Facebook employee and I don't have like a lot of access to Facebook engineers. And plus, GraphQL was a code dump at some point in 2016. They just like dump code on GitHub. So it's very valuable for me to see Git history, and I want to preserve it for other future maintainers and core contributors. So idea is that PR should be topic and as small as possible, and changes should be gradual and reviewable. One of the thing I'm like I want to be able to review basically every line and understand why it's happening. After the onboard person, we can delegate, but until that, it's like, I don't know, like person don't know how stuff is working and he don't know our processes. So it's not, I need to ensure that it's done according to like current architecture. We can change it later, but so what I'm trying to communicate is that I would suggest to stick with current process until we form a core team, like at least we onboard like a couple of people, and when we can discuss how to change processes, and we can actually change processes during this thing, but it should be gradual. It's not like, and my strongest requirement is that PR should be reviewable, meaning like, if it's not the same, if you change one line, the same stuff in a bunch of files, it's okay. If it's similar stuff, it's okay to like 1,000 lines per 2005 if it's the same stuff. But if it's different changes, I just don't have a capacity to review it. The same thing if I comment on some changes and ask to do the same changes like down the files. So like basically limit, because as we discussed with Brian previously, it's not my full-time job. It's like basically a foundation try to support me for like some number of hours, and we discussed it like around 40 hours per month, and I maintain like some other projects. So I cannot dedicate like huge amount of time to reviewing. So I would ask for people who want to contribute to make the API easy for review. And basically it's like my requirement, and like to self-review. First thing is to self-review, and from my side, I think it's better to demand unwritten rules. So I know that we discussed it previously and I failed to deliver on that. I need to write contribution guide. I have an issue. Yeah, I will send the link to it when I have like some, I know some stuff for contribution guide, but I need to formalize some of the rules, some technical and some non-technical. So like, what do you think about that? How it can be improved? Do you disagree, agree, and how we can proceed?
I think, by the way, I'm sorry if there's like a noise and stuff, but I think that, yeah, I very much agree with everything you said. I think, you know, we really, like all of us, I think, as some people that work a lot of time with GraphQL and JavaScript, and we are ready to dedicate a lot of our time for free to help you. So I think, maybe we could just, so the question is, let's say we nominate at the beginning just one person from the guild, because, too many people at the same time will probably take a lot of time from you. But, and I'm saying from the guild, but it might be someone else. Just, I think, let's pick up someone and let's debate like, what's the best use of your time and who's this person should be. And then, I think let's start with thinking together, how can we onboard that specific person? And I think that would mean, then we'll get an actual action plan that we can even like, I don't know, execute until the next meeting. So I think the main question maybe would start is like, let's say a lot of people, or I know a lot of people, a bunch of us joining into that meeting want to help you. So what, and let's say we pick one person. First of all, how should we choose who that one person should be? Second of all, what would be the first task for that person to prove themselves or to make sure that they learn what they need to learn?
So I don't want to, like, one of the problem of working groups is to not to turn it in dialogue between like two people. So if anybody else have like some ideas or some stuff to say, let's go around and everybody will talk and I will respond and we will continue. Anybody else want to like suggest something?
Well, just to make clear, when you were talking about the size of the PRs and that kind of things that bothers you, I totally feel the same as you on that matter. I agree with that. But that was when PRs, that usually happens when you don't have a clear roadmap and like tasks and deliverables defined. So people are mostly ad hocing, adding features and trying to do stuff. I think that will be solved when we have a clear roadmap and deliverables, and then you can get a small task and iterate on top of that. And as Yuri mentioned it, have uh, I have big time available for working on this specifically. This is very important project for me, and I'm available for anything that I can help.
Anyone else want to try something?
I just want to say that I completely agree with you. And from, I don't know, our point of view, we feel the same with a lot of like other libraries that are open source that we maintain. Small PRs are usually easy to review, and it's much simpler to get this merged and released and available for everyone. So we totally agree with you. I mean, there are some exceptions on that, and I'm sure you're aware of that, like refactors and even the TypeScript migrations. But yeah, I totally agree.
So if everybody okay, by the way, it's okay to interrupt me. We have like only 6 people. So with this small size, it's actually okay. Like if we have like 20 people and everybody try to speak. So yeah, we'll use this opportunity. So to answer like first Uri, and like correct me if I like miss something or misinterpreted. So I would say, in a sense, it's kind of not fair to designate one particular person and it's put a pressure on this person. Maybe it's like in the end he will learn, because it's open source, so it's not like you can pressure like person, and it's in a sense I would say like a group of people that want to contribute continuously is better. What I can do is like now companies have service level agreement, so let's define my SLA. So I always try to respond in 24 hours, except like cases I have like some health issues or something else. So it's like my commitment to answer in 24 hours if you ask questions. If I don't have a time for review, I would like answer. If you, one thing, I had like some surgery, so my GitHub inbox is like huge. So if you want for me to answer, just like tag me. So I answer to like GitHub inbox have a special category mentioned. So if you want something to be like reviewed or stuff, mention me there, because I actually like go every day. I go through it. As if you just create a PR without mentioning, it's like basically mean like next time I want to open Pandora box of issues and PRs. Like so, yeah, it's one thing. And a second thing, partial reviews. So I learned it's actually helpful from both. It's like it can be frustrating. Like it can be frustrating if you don't know why. So I want to voice it right now. Give me a second. I will put a light so I'm visible. So basically, I don't know if it's better or worse. So basically, especially for bigger pairs, I don't have time to fully reviews. So partial reviews, and what I learned is effective. And actually, like it's when I saw something, I just ask you to change it in other places. So if I see one place that you did something not according to standard or something problem with it, I ask you to self-review the rest of PR and change it. So I'm okay with reviewing, like honestly, if like 2, 3, 4 people working full time, you cannot review it. But I don't expect this because you also have in the guild and other contributors have AQ projects. So let's do it like that. Let's start from people on this scope and write something in the issue. So I remember your GitHub accounts. And if you mention me, like I answer to everybody who mentions me, at least I try. And in your PRs, I will try to give feedback instead of like re-implementing it or fixing it myself. Because yeah, if it's not like super complex stuff to explain, I give feedback. Is it like really complicated, or is it like last final touches I can like commit on top? But I will like try to give feedback. But at the same time, first self-review, and second thing, when I ask in comments to change it to self-review and change it to other places, if it's big PR. It's not because I'm like, my personal goal is not to demand anything from anybody that I wouldn't do myself. I don't do myself. So it's the same about smaller PRs. I always break my work. It took me more time to do this break, but I always break it smaller chunks. So when I like ask you to do something, it's basically the same thing I'm doing personally. As I said like earlier, later we can discuss how to change our workflows, but at the moment it's like that. So self-reviewing and like reacting partial reviews and reacting on reviews and changing to other places. So with my suggestion, and yeah, let's limit batch to people in this call, and next call maybe somebody else want to join, and basically I would know that you're interested in long-time contribution and feedback, and not just like your particular change to be added. And feel free if I didn't answer, like because I didn't remember the all questions. And I need to duplicate this in contribution MD. I will basically duplicate the thing about like partial PR, self-reviewing, and other things. Yeah. Did I answer your question, or like if you want to suggest something on top?
Can I speak, or
Yeah,
should we wait for others? Okay, so I think, well, there's two separate things here. One is how can we get more PRs in, which is no, or like increase the throughput, which is what you said is, I think, okay. I mean, we would love to, like, we would, from even tomorrow, we'll start breaking PRs into smaller chunks, and we would, you know, we will tag you, and, you know, we will do those things. And I hope that, you know, that will help getting more things in. I think the other thing that I think would really be great, like was suggested, would be to have a roadmap. Then we can, like, you know, we can maybe use that roadmap, like put each task on like as a GitHub issue or PR, and have like a, you know, maybe like a Zen hub or some board. We can all see what's the progress and everything. I think that also could be nice. But I think all of that is, you know, that's all those things are about how can we get more PRs in and increase the throughput. There's another subject that I think is as important, which is how can we increase the bandwidth, meaning how can we get more, like this whole means how can we, everything you said was how can we optimize the time of Ivan as the main maintainer. There's another subject, which is how can we get more Ivans in?
Yeah, yeah, actually a good question. So part of the question is to GraphQL Foundation, because I don't want to be a person who decides. So I think like we need to have a policy, because we have like a bunch of projects. And so, but at the same time, I feel like initial batch can be like manual, and later like have more official process. So from my side, if person like normally react to feedback and correct his things, and he start understanding what's happening to a project, yeah, I'm okay with after. One thing, I want to be sure that this person's commitment and he's like, so because we don't want to put barrier too low in a sense. So I think like 2 months of contribution, periodical contribution, when a person like iterate based on feedback and like basically like learning ways of a project. So for me, criteria is that I don't need to repeat the same review comments in every PR because it's not a solution. As a group, we'll review each other. When we have like a core group, we can review each other. And if you, so like basically like try to adhere to standards and actively commit for, actively create PR for a couple of months. Here's my like personal criteria. I feel like, and Brian approached me, Brian from GraphQL Foundation, actually I have a call with him today. And he said about some way how we communicate with Foundation. And it's obvious thing, but I think we need some input and agreement from Foundation. So I'm not ready to put official criteria, but not unofficial criteria from Ivan's point of view is to actively contribute and to like, even if you disagree with how it's done right now, to adhere to standards, and later we can change them. And I'm like, yeah, so onboarding period is for me, it's my personal criteria. So before I speak with like Foundation or like we have some discussion, I cannot say it's official, but it's my position and I will advocate for that.
So can you, just to summarize your criteria, like, and again, it's just your point of view and not the official point of view. It's you want someone that is, first of all, like a person that learns from comments and not repeating mistakes, like you said. Second of all, someone that is like invested in the project and in GraphQL long term. Like we need to define what is long term, right? Like, is it a month? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Like,
I would say like 2 months is a good criteria, because like in 1 month it's like a lot of, and if something happens, it's also okay. So it's totally normal. For example, like I try to onboard Daniel, and I know Daniel actually worked for you, and we have a good progress and good process, but he changed his job. So I spoke with him, and he's still interested in being code contributor, but on a new job he have like some other stuff to do, and it's totally normal. It's unpredictable. It's like I just want to know a person that he's not losing interest or finding the new fancy thing in like, maybe there is something fancier than GraphQL and API space. I don't know, or WebAssembly or something. Yeah, like.
I think it's a good point, but I also think one thing to add about it, like if someone is doing that, let's say he's actively maintaining and is being a good contributor and everything, and then he or she shifts shifts their I don't know, their interest, or they're not spending more time. I think it's okay to then just drop that maintainer, meaning like, and that's okay. I think this is a process that happens a lot in projects. So I think it's less about anticipating what's going to happen and more about just examining the people involved and seeing, so then you keep the barrier possible to get in. But also it means that, when people stop being like that, we can always drop them, and it's not such a big deal. They can always come back. But
on the technical side, we have like 60 people from Facebook, more than 60 people Facebook with commit rights. And it's an easy question, but at some point we actually need to ask what to do with these people. So, and I'm totally agree. I would say right now what I did with Daniel is to contact him and ask, do you want to contribute in future? And he said yes. It just like I have like onboarding experience with work. So I would expect criteria to be the same. You contact a person, and if person still interested in like short term, so it's like a months, not a years. So keep him in the loop. And if he like want to move to some other project or like have something, some issues or problem or some positive things for a year, yeah, and then to drop him. So yeah, but I think like right now we have like a good thing. It can be like a lot of things can be manual because we're like in bootstrap mode. You know, like this article from Graham, the guy from Y Combinator, article say, title say, do things that don't scale. So because we're bootstrapping, our processes can be different from at times that we fully bootstrap. We can cut a corner and like simplify stuff and be less official. So yeah. Yeah, actually, another thing, we're running on time. I think like it's basically most important question. So if somebody, like I will resume, and if somebody disagree, we still have a time because I think it's like most important question. If not, we will continue to TypeScript and to other issues. So from me, action items, because action items is always helpful to put it official, is to create a repo. And I would prefer somebody actually like a first like way to help me. I set up a repo and you just copy template and stuff from main working group and replace GraphQL spec with GraphQL.js. I will put issue for that because yeah, I agree roadmap. So let's start from some simple stuff and move to like more complex one. So a second thing is contribution guide, and I would also appreciate help. One of the reasons I'm not like really happy about my writing, so I will just put content and I actually tag everybody on this call from this call to review it, and we can have discussion on contributing. To put a time limit on that, I will create a report tomorrow, and I will work on contributing guide this week, like first iteration. So next thing is I actually will put like in contribution guide, I will put the stuff that I discussed. So if you mention me or any other maintainer, try to respond. And like, as I said, less one and more like maintainers. So contribution guide is like, maintainer should, if you mention, he should try to respond in 24 hours. Respond, not, he can say I don't have a time to review it, but he should respond. And same thing about like partial reviews and like asking, like basically to put more work on person who submit PR, and it's always helpful because people will burn out, not only in this particular situation when we have like. And another thing is, if somebody interested in being reviewer for other PRs, it would be also helpful and take some time from me. Just one thing, let's for now, let's don't touch old PRs, just new ones. Let's bootstrap from new PRs, and because like there is some old PRs which is pretty complex and we need to design stuff. Another thing for me is I would start from simple issues, like create a repo, I would think of other like, because like complex thing is hard to onboard and hard to review. So if everybody okay will think about some things.
As a suggestion for starting the roadmap, we could classify all the existing PRs into topics, and that would be a good starting point. We could analyze what people is requesting more in that matter.
So like problem with PRs, they're mostly like feature requests. So like feature requests put a lot of pressure on me to make decision and to choose. That's why actually like more maintainers is helpful, because you like discuss and brainstorm and people have a context about project. So I would suggest let's start from like obvious features like ESM, TypeScript, features that we all agree, and features that we don't need to design. We can classify, actually it would be helpful if somebody volunteered to classify like new stuff from like improvements. Like Dino support is obvious, and I spoke with Dino guys and they're interested, and something like set up test on browsers, like run, or we have like integration tests, support more integration tests, like Webpack is not controversial, and it's helpful that we don't break like Webpack or don't break flow by switching to TypeScript. So things like that.
I could definitely work on testing setup, as I am not that experienced on the core code. It could be a good starting point for me writing tests on that.
Yeah, so I create issues for that. I will brainstorm some ideas. And one of the issues that I would use help on is to find issues or PRs that don't change API or don't introduce new features, that just quality of life improvements. And we can start from that, because for new features, I don't want to be, one of the problems is like person spend a lot of time and I kind of pressured into giving him feedback, and I don't have a right answer at the moment. I need to think or consult with somebody, or like, I just don't know the right answer. So I would, yeah, I create issue for somebody to go through. And by the way, if somebody interested, we can have a model GitHub allow triage roles. So you can help by reviewing and by answering issues. From time to time, people ask random questions, or something is crashed, and you can ask him, ask person provide like detailed bug report or some details. Or so if you, it would be also helpful, and I can quickly promote you to triage role. Basically, just like try to do it for like a week. And
now that you mentioned, this is good stuff to put in the contribution guide. Like,
yeah. Because I actually like it. Not just Foundation have this idea that it's very easy to to have triage role, and I think it's actually test people. But at the same time, it's motivates them. You don't need to wait like a couple of months. It's like you get like some feedback initially. Yeah. A good thing that we have recording. I will go through it afterwards and work on action items. Anything else I forget or somebody wants to suggest on this topic before we move to TypeScript?
I just wanted to add that like we have the create prioritize public roadmap. I don't mind like doing the initial, like hacking out the initial thing, PRing it, and giving it for review even, just to.
As a sense of like, so if it's include like non-controversial, non-design stuff, let's say it's like non-design stuff, like ESM, TypeScript, and everything. I think like if you're interested in that, open an issue for that, and like just claim it right now after call or tomorrow. Say I would work on that. By the way, if somebody wants to start working on something, starting from issue is a good thing, or like commenting an existing issue. So yeah, it would be great, and you provide a list of stuff that you want to include, and yeah. So yeah, I'm like totally for it. One thing, like I don't feel like we should do like TypeScript migration, then support and other important stuff and change API at the same time. It's like hard, and it's hard to distribute that work to other people.
Yeah, I will just create it and suggest it. It doesn't mean that it's there.
Okay.
I'll just like it's for your review, and then you can change whatever you want or comment on it. Just I can start taking on myself just to create that initial issue. I can write a bunch of shit down, and then you can like delete all of it. Just like
And by the way,
something.
If you're interested, what we can experiment with projects on GitHub. I can give you Trajero, and we can experiment with if you one thing, the same thing applied. If you volunteer to do that, you need to do it in reasonable time. So like couple of weeks or until the next working group call, basically. Like let's time it like that. Yeah, so action item for me after call, I will add US Trajero, and you will create like project boards. Think like project boards. I don't know how to discuss stuff on project boards, or should it be moved, but we can figure it out. I think like project boards is dedicated for roadmaps. GitHub use it as a public roadmap, so you can just follow. To switch to
I think it's a good idea, and I think, I mean, we can always fall back from projects to ZenHub, which we also very like a lot. Like then you can add some more data, but I think starting with projects would be good. And just to add on the adding maintainer, so you said like you suggested your needed characteristics, and of course it's not official. It's like your like your thing. But the good thing is that I'm also part of the foundation. So what we can, I will make sure that tomorrow on the foundation meeting, I will present your characteristics, and I will ask them if they like can officially agree to those characteristics. I think it will be easier if until tomorrow you can create an issue and write those things down, and then I can actually present them something that you wrote and not that I say what you say. So I think it's better.
It makes sense. Yeah, I can do it. It's like reasonable. So tomorrow is like I'm writing like report for Brian. So tomorrow is governing board day, basically. Okay. So one thing I feel like we have technical steering committee, and each should kind of do technical steering thing. So if you raise a question on foundation, a governing board is like, we have this governing body for technical issue for maintaining projects. It's like officially need to do that, but we don't have a technical steering committee for like a long time. So
sorry, what is that? Can you describe this thing?
Technical steering committee.
What is that?
So in foundation documents, there is it's officially described. There is a governing board, and governing board is like general issues around projects and like finance allocation. But there is a technical steering committee, which is like same TC as like Node.js projects as or other projects. So in Node.js, as I understand, like with like work of policy or how we approve new contributors is done by TST. So I'm not sure. One thing I like, basically I want to have buy-in from everybody because it's kind of important question. Even yeah, and I will definitely write issue about that. Yeah.
Who is in the technical steering committee today?
So yeah, let's communicate. Let's not took time because it's like ping me on Slack. So it's basically two other authors of GraphQL and
Who?
so like yeah, I just cannot remember on the spot.
Is there a public list of this somewhere?
I'm not sure.
So is it possible that we'll make, because I think it's important information for everyone here, because everything we decide here needs to be decided on technical committee. So will it be possible for you to create somewhere a list of basically making sure that until tomorrow, you know,
okay.
It's public, this technical steering committee is public for everyone?
Yeah,
to see what it is and who is in there?
I'm don't feel like I'm on a road to announce it, but let's do it like that. I will tag them in this issue. I write CC in this issue and mention like, please give feedback. And I will mention that you bring this question governing board. I'm like, you know, I don't know if it's official, is it like foundation? Like,
you know, just as a member of the foundation and someone who wants to bring tomorrow to the foundation knowledge like this, everything we talked about here, I think it's worth that the foundation would know about the steering committee, the technical steering committee, who is there.
I think foundation approved it. It was like they have a voting and they approve the list. Like in last year. So maybe it was before we joined. So I will just CC them in the issue. I'm not feel like creating like official press release or something. It's beyond my like role or stuff that
that's okay. I think I'll just raise it tomorrow in the foundation meeting.
Okay. Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. So I think we discussed like in this topic we spend it, but yeah, it's most important topic, and it's unblock a lot of other stuff. So next thing is like TypeScript. So is a couple of things about TypeScript. It's the same thing. So I'm like, if we one-to-one conversion, I'm like totally okay. If we like add standard TypeScript, it's also totally okay. If we add some TypeScript meta programming, so like first step would be to just one-to-one conversion from flow to TypeScript without adding like new stuff. Like later we can discuss and add them. One thing to keep in mind, GraphQL.js is a reference implementation, so it should be readable. Like it's one of core goals, not only supporting JavaScript community and be useful in JavaScript projects, but to be a reference implementation. So a stuff that affect code readability in major way. If it's separate files and it's clear, understandable, it's like TypeScript specific stuff, it can be whatever complex it should be. But if it's like core code, I would stick with like standard TypeScript without a lot of meta programming. It's my position because it should be readable by like a person from GraphQL Java or a GraphQL Python maintainer or PHP, and not always, obviously, like not every language have a types and we have a types. So yeah, but in a sense, we should not overstretch it. So a person should learn like some JavaScript to be able to fully read it, but he shouldn't be proficient in that's why, and it's also up to discussion. After we migrate, as a separate step, we can discuss like more complex usage scenario for TypeScript. But before, and stuff that we added as typed documents, it's okay. It's live in separate file. It's not affecting readability. It's clearly marked as TypeScript specific stuff. So I don't have issues with that. But we should not add like, yeah. So one-to-one conversion. It's like first point. And the second thing is.
Can I just say something about that? I mean, this is a bit hard for me. I mean, because think of, I mean, it's very hard to do reference implementation with a language that isn't like a pseudocode. Because let's say that someone from Go, which is very popular, would like to implement GraphQL. He won't be able to use generics. And this is something that we use in even now with Flow. So it's kind of like it's endless. So I think in terms of like logic, I do agree with you that it needs to be a reference implementation in terms of the logic, but in terms of, just a second. But in terms of like the typing system and the features around it, I think it's like, it's endless. I mean, if we start to limit our, like limit the way we implement GraphQL.js, we'll eventually won't be able to use any feature-rich language. So it's kind of limiting. So, but I do agree with you that it needs to be, there should be some kind of balance of what we use from TypeScript and what is available for other languages.
Yeah, so good rule of thumb for me is first, like actually like to be more effective in that discussion, not to have a lot of time. Can we agree to postpone discussion about this policy after we finish TypeScript conversion? So TypeScript conversion, so criteria that I propose is if something exists in Flow, we convert it into TypeScript. So try not to lose stuff. And second thing is to write idiomatic TypeScript. If like, so if right now for example, during conversion, don't type arguments if they didn't exist previously, and if they don't require for idiomatic TypeScript. So we can later discuss this policy and agree on that and define like a border. I have some ideas about it, just don't want to, you know, like, yeah.
It makes sense. I agree.
Okay. So yeah, it's a first point. So I kind of feature freeze on TypeScript. Don't do more than we already use in Flow or more than necessary. And second thing is, and it's back to my point that I'm don't ask to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself, is to try to do as much conversion as avoid steps. So obviously it's not possible for everything, but for a lot of things it's possible to do proactively in Flow. So for example, I like ported typings. So I typed every function in Flow right now. So like TypeScript change, TypeScript diff should not contain like new typings. It just should contain like some changes in typings. So it's like the stuff that I will ask to do during conversion is like to do as much as possible stuff in flow. And so like TypeScript conversion diff is smaller in a sense. So for example, if benchmark is broken during conversion, and if we see a way how what I'm basically working right now, so like migrating benchmark to be separate from source basic source tree, so like adapt it to future conversion before we do conversion, so not to have like broken thing during conversion and fix afterwards. It's so what I ask is that like in a sense, let's yes, I understand it's harder, but in a sense I'm okay to do it myself, so I feel like I can ask other people to do the same, and later we can discuss if we in future we will have like similar issue, we can discuss how we approach them. It just like for this transition period, I ask if I ask NPRs of TypeScript conversion to try to backport it to full. It's easier for me. It's the same. And another thing, it's easier for me because I feel more sure about not losing stuff and predictable change and easier to review.
I see. I see. It makes perfect sense.
Okay. So yeah, and another thing I need to buy in um, from you, and it's like that we aligned, is that UPRX actually showed like a lot of this stuff. So it showed why benchmark is broken, and or that flow types are missing. And another thing it showed is that if we have some problem with TypeScript typings because we need to support some old TypeScript version, I think like 2.7. We still support because when we inherit typings from defaultly typed, I didn't want to create release that break immediately. I wanted for entire ecosystem to switch on using GraphQL.js and later to do breaking changes. So I feel if we introduce a bunch of pennies in our test and bunch of other like compromises from 2.7, so I want to do new breaking change, 16.0.0, and I think like community will accept that if we say it's for TypeScript conversion and for doing it cleanly, instead of doing a bunch of workaround to support old TypeScript version or to support like some other weird stuff. So some preparation work. Plus, it allows us to remove deprecated fields, deprecated features instead of migrating them. So like less migration. Is like everybody okay that we do TypeScript migration as breaking change? That's a new release basically 16.0.0. Okay.
I see. It makes sense. And one of the things that I want to ask you is, so I had this big PR for TypeScript migration, and one of the things that I noticed is that there are some bugs in the TypeScript typings with the current ones that we have, like on the DTS files. So maybe I can start with small PRs just to fix those, because those are bugs and could be, I mean, potentially this could be in the next release of GraphQL.js because it's a bug fix on types. and it's just aligning the types to the types that we have on the flow types.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, so yeah, let's discuss actual approach. So actual approach is actually, I think I mentioned it in issue. The only thing I suggested to do it on branch, and right now I learned that we need to drop old TypeScript version and do break-in release. So I would suggest approach when we do as much preparation work in flow, and later we do a set of commits that first migrate stuff to syntactically. So like we will use prettier or probably prettier to as validation tool. So like idea of a first commit is to just migrate syntax that prettier is happy, and do that by changing existing JavaScript files and not by adopting DTS files. So my plan was actually to basically drop DTS files, so use them as a reference and do repo for entire repo, just migrate syntax first and later slowly enable typings. And because it's breaking change and we will have separate branch for 15.0.0 line support, we can allow ourselves to have like a week or something when master is broken. And I think we need that to do quality results. So part of a plan is to migrate JavaScript files as a whole. So at least like for syntax changes and for basic TypeScript compilation. Later we can like make forbid explicit null. So like just relax everything. It's super simple TypeScript thing and just migrate, but migrate files, because like for example 2.7 doesn't support recursive. TypeScript 2.7 doesn't support recursive types, so you cannot fix that inside 2.7. So I think like, and yeah, I feel like we need to migrate flow instead of yeah. So from my point, I will try to mark as much as possible with preparation steps that we need to do as separate issues. And I have a branch for break-in release. I basically remove stuff. So plan is the same as like in this issue about road to TypeScript. It's just it should happen. Like we plan to do that like almost a year ago, but it's happening right now. So to have a release candidate with breaking change and preparation work done, and later to so as much preparation work as possible, and release 16.0.0 alpha 1 that doesn't have TypeScript conversion but have all breaking changes and preparation work we anticipate. So we have a point of reference, so people from community know what broke them, TypeScript conversion or we removing deprecated stuff. So basically I will prepare issues for RC1. Actually, like on a small note, and we still have stream and defer to discuss. One thing I wanted to discuss that will actually simplify conversion and which is like separate projects that you can really help me with, is like flow typings. I feel like we need to figure out a way not to pressure people into updating flow, at least like for most things. So Dotan, you suggested on working group call, suggested a tool. It's written by Orta, so we can, and Orta is also interested in GraphQL, so we can ping him to merge stuff. I don't expect it to be able to convert everything, so we can maybe have some divs or patch to apply on top of it. But I feel like if we pressure every contributor learn TypeScript and learn Flow at the same time, it's like, and another thing, I don't want to be person responsible for writing flow typings, and I don't want anybody else be responsible just for flow typing. Yes, yeah. So let's try a technical solution, and if it's not work, we'll think something. But if it's work, it will be great. Another thing, in 1600, I want to drop polyfills because they're hard to migrate and they're a bunch of hacks. So one of the things we need to explore is like people need GraphQL in Internet Explorer and 11, and if they need that, how we can make their life easier. Because right now we're making everybody's life harder. GraphQL.js is mostly like not projects, and we want to support demo. So I feel like if we polyfill or transpile a lot of things, it's create problem for debugging and Node and stuff. So I think like we can figure out something out, like have us publish another package, transpiled one, or have like a polyfill package like React has, but it's pretty hard, and it's introduced a bunch of hacks in typings, like yeah. So if you're okay that we try to support existing user of a browser, but main code wouldn't have manual polyfills or manual like support for EL11. So we would not introduce like complicated async await stuff that is hard to polyfill, but we need to use like object values, because if we use polyfill for object values, it's like we need to type it. It's not working good with Flow. It's not working good with TypeScript. It's a fun giant hack. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm on it with you. I mean, it sounds like a good plan.
Okay, so like it's so 1600 alpha 1 will contain polyfills, removing polyfills, removing deprecated stuff, removing and try to remove flow hacks. So if we go to TypeScript, we don't need flow legacy. We don't need to take flow legacy into TypeScript world, because for TypeScript we will introduce its own set of workarounds. Not there is no ideal tools. It's just like important not to bring old workarounds into a new system. So drop like support for GraphQL list, GraphQL normal without new. So it's hard to type in TypeScript like something that is function and a class at the same time.
Yeah. I think in TypeScript 4 we can do some tricks, but I guess that the backward compatibility will eventually force us to use. But is there a plan to drop support for all versions of TypeScript at some point? Because I don't think there are projects that are using version 2 of TypeScript right now.
Yeah, so idea is to support 3.7 have recursive types, and they're pretty important for code bases. 4 has support for recursive type. So we will lose a bunch of type checkings. If we drop recursive type in GraphQL, a lot of things are recursive. We can use down-level DTS. There is a special tool from Typescript team to down-level typings. It doesn't handle all the cases. So I would say like that support 3.7 because it's important for a project. But connect to down-level DTS. Down-level DTS promise 3.4 support. And if something is not working with 3.4, we can contribute fixes to down-level DTS and help everybody, not only like this project. And if something is not portable, it cannot be solved by down-level DTS, we can consider to not using that. But I'm like, in long term, I don't want to lose stuff that we have a flow. That's why recursive types are important for me.
Okay.
And 3.7, I checked, like 3.7 was released more like almost like 2 years ago. So it was plenty of time to migrate. I feel like over supporting too much legacy stuff slow down the projects and create a lot of frustration, especially for new contributors. You know why it's not possible, but every time in PR you need to explain a person you cannot use this new new JS feature or TypeScript feature. So it's frustrating. So yeah, so I'm definitely on TypeScript conversion. I just like want to do it gradually and without losing what we have in flow. So it can take more time. It will definitely take more time. But the one thing is that I agree, it should be not endless battle. It should be like real plan with list of things that we need to done. So like public roadmap for TypeScript conversion. I'm like totally agree with that. So we all know what is missing, what progress can be done, and how to help. So yeah, yeah. So anybody else have some suggestion about TypeScript, and we can continue inside the issue. I will like resume and I will publish timestamp in this video in TypeScript issues. So we can, if something is missing, we can discuss it there. Just like we promised to also discuss like stream and defer and how it's blocked. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I think I'm good to go with TypeScript.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think basically repeat what you're saying. I think everything is fine. I just I added to a task where you could or update the existing TypeScript issue or break into a couple of like smaller issues just so we can track, and it will be easier for us to see where we stand and what we need to do and what we need to take care of and things like that. So it will be easier for us.
Yeah. One of the things is like it's mentally hard when you're like in a mode that you fail to deliver and to write the same issue from a year ago. So, but like actually with group is helpful because I have a real feedback from people and understand it's not blaming. It's like community wants to help. It's not like so. Yeah, so switch to stream and defer. So yeah, like
so I guess I have it's a pretty large PR for defer and stream that definitely needs to get broken up. The first part of it was doing the async iterables. And where I'm at with that is you had commented that there may be a memory leak because it was a similar pattern. So I tried writing a similar test that was added to address that, but I don't think we could do the same approach because with that test, it was just iterating through the iterables, but with GraphQL, it has to collect all of them into the list before it sends it. So you do always see the memory growing from just that collection. That makes sense.
Yeah, before we go to technical details, there is a question I actually want to ask you. It's like every time it's strange to ask this question inside the issues. So this call is helpful. So what's your motivation for streaming defer? Like obviously you want to feature to be merged, but do you interested in becoming core contributor? Like why I'm asking, so to explain why I'm asking, is that some small things it's easier to do than to explain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally okay if you're interested in this feature to be added. It's mean like I can ask you to do some stuff and some stuff I can, like for example, in your PRs I can commit on top of. So when you review and stuff, it's easier to just like fix it yourself and commit on top and ask you to review it in case of missing something, or you're interested in one-time contribution. In that case, I will try to provide feedback and explain, like especially on small, like obviously you're more knowledgeable about stream and defer, but about like needs and pieces and how we create like tests and stuff. So what's you interested in that?
I'm more interested in the feature than
Okay.
being a maintainer long term. Maybe after this feature is done, I'll consider it. But like right now, I'm kind of using all of the free time I have for this and the spec and the other parts of it than to focus more on GraphQL.js. If that's okay.
Yeah. There's definitely, it's like open source. It's like the fact that you're contributing, you're doing way more than most of other programmers. It's like everybody choose a way to contribute that he's comfortable with. It's just like we need to align expectations. So I'm not feel bad when I like commit on top of your PR.
Yeah, no, not at all. That would be very helpful. Like whatever is easiest for you, I want to do. So if you would like me to fix something, I'm happy to do that. Or if it's easier for you to just push, I could give you access to the branches that we're working on too, if that's easier. Either way.
I feel like yeah, one thing I promise and I failed to deliver, and I just remember it, to create a branch for you for stream and defer. Basically, create like a snapshot of a master and merge stream defer into that branch. So as we discussed, like there is a deep problems with GraphQL.js, and like so. It's really great that you separate async support for async iterables separate. Yeah. And it's stuff that because like main PR, we discussed this idea of experimental folder, but it's at some stuff that's really hard to isolate without basically copying the code.
Right.
Yeah, and because we will do Typescript conversion, yeah, like I'm actually like, for me, it's easier to help you convert your flow code into TypeScript after conversion than to merge it, and like it's too much uncertainty. So I'm like okay with async iteratable, like merging it, like if we figure out all the stuff. But general, at the same time, I see how you want to get a momentum and traction. So what we can do, and as just a first step is to give it out there, so you can write a blog post and advocate and get some feedback on it, is to release basically what we have right now, 14.5.6 stream defer tag. So like basically release, it would be official package. We need to add experimental stream defer tag from a branch. So like so action items, for me, I set up a branch and basically like merge stream and defer PRs that you have right now into that branch and manually create a release on top of it. So I need to release what we have on master and release what we have on this branch. So we would have like 15 point something, and the same version, but dash stream defer, experimental stream defer. And that way we partly unblock you, but don't introduce a lot of uncertainty in like with like TypeScript migration, Deno support, MJS support, and like other stuff. Because yeah, are you okay with this approach? Is something that
Yeah, the only thing is keeping the branch up to date, because
yeah, I can help with that. So what if that's why I ask if you like yeah. So I can promise because I think if I do a change, I will rebase it myself. If somebody else create PR, I will try to rebase it. And if it's too complex, I will ask a person who create PR to also help with it. So not to put too much pressure, because I know we switched to TypeScript and a bunch of other changes, and basically like it would be impossible to yeah. So I will take up myself at least like changes that I made myself or make myself, or it's easily rebaseable. And for the rest, I will ask.
okay, yeah, that's fine. It's just that I've been rebasing it now every couple of weeks, and if it's on the GraphQL.js main branch, then I won't have access to do that. So I don't want to make more work for you.
Okay. Okay, main branch. I feel like for me it's easier. It would be easier to rebase your stuff, or if you, yeah, if you want to share this work and to help if you have capacity, I can give you commit rights to do that particular. If you promise not to
of course.
anything else, I can do. One thing I'm like not comfortable is like releasing somebody else's branch as official package. So it should be on the repo, but I'm okay with giving you commit access. Or if you don't have time, anytime, like just ping me saying like I don't have time to rebase, or if it's too complex rebase. Because for commit, if I after of PR or if I like review it, for me it's easier to rebase it than for you to learn what was the change about and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm happy with it to go to another branch, and I can help out rebasing as much as I can whenever. Okay. You can let me know whenever you want me to do it, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Yeah, and I actually like to offload as much work as possible. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. So for me to stop a branch, release master, and release your version. So idea is that we will have parallel packages version. So yeah, every time we release from a master, we release from your branch. So ideally, we would release one last release from master and your package, and next it would be 16.0.0 alpha 1 with all the breaking changes, and your version of the package the same, like just with like a tag, like name, different name. And the same, by the way, I can do the same for Express GraphQL change, because you also depend on it. So we can have like two packages, Express GraphQL and GraphQL.js with experimental stream deferred.
Okay. So you are planning to make version 16 soon? That's after TypeScript migration?
It would be before TypeScript conversion. So to do all the breaking changes in flow, to clean up like some workarounds, to remove polyfill and polyfills and bunch of other stuff, release 16.0.0 alpha 1, basically all the breaking change, all the preparation work, and then start TypeScript conversion. And it would actually, it would be helpful for with parallel branch also, because not one huge leap, but a set of steps. So you still stay in flow, and we ensure that everything is work. And if later you discover a bug, you can try it on 15 version when it was released, and you can try on that. So every checkpoint that involve releasing, I will ping you, and we can figure out is it you rebase it, or I can help with some, or somebody else can help with some like rebasing. That way, yeah, that way we, yeah, because basically I don't want to break things, and it's hard to isolate. I review like Liliana, I think Liliana moved into experimental, or you did, somebody moved it to experimental, but there is a bunch of stuff that's still in like directive itself is still there, and like, yeah, so.
Yeah, I guess if this gets targeted for after 16 alpha is cut, then do we still need the experimental directories?
No, because it's not working. What I saw in PR is like, because you still like modify execute, you still change.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to do it without copying the whole thing, right?
Yeah, so yeah, and it's put a lot of effort, and it's actually hard to review, because we're reviewing not the end result but some intermediate state. So
yeah. Do you want me to undo those changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And are you okay if I push it to next week? So this week I promise like to write a bunch of stuff and work on contribution guide. And next week we will figure out all the release and branch and merging. Is it okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, and if you have other ideas that can unbox you, just write them as comment, and don't forget to tag me. So as I said before, like my inbox is still huge. I like clean it up, but it's still huge. So if you need some attention from me, some help, something, just like tag me.
Yeah. Also, I'm on the GraphQL Slack all day. If it's easier to talk over there.
Yeah, and we can coordinate. So next week I will reach out and we can coordinate how to do it in the best way.
Sorry to interrupt. What is the GraphQL Slack? Just true.
There is a official Slack. Yes, if somebody can send the link.
Thanks.
Yes, so maybe we would switch to Discord in the future, at least like people discussing that. But right now we have a Slack. It's managed by Foundation, and it's official, basically. One thing, we don't have a history, so history disappears. Yeah, but it's useful, and you can actually reach me there if you have something quite important or discuss something. You can reach me there. I'm I1G there.
Okay.
Yeah, I will write my nickname. So, yeah, so it's like that, and yeah, you continue there. The same service level agreement apply. I will try to reply 24 hours because sometimes like different time zones and stuff.
So for the pull request for async iterables, what?
Yeah, I think it still should be there because it's a stepping stone and some work is done. I merged like part of it is async iteratable, so we need to rebase it. But like most of the work, like I still feel like we release so like a long-term plan. It's my suggestion. We can discuss it. Just don't want to stretch this meeting indefinitely. So because we're actually losing people, initially it was 6 people and right now 4. Plan is TypeScript, so like with intermediate release with breaking changes, TypeScript conversion. We release it and merge async iteratable stuff into core. See, like every release we still release with like experimental something package. For every version we release identical version just with stream and defer. And at that point you will have feedback on stream and defer. And if feedback is positive with people using it and like everything more was working, we just merge it in the core. It would be also hard process because it build big PR and execute is like very important function, especially for performance and asynchronously. And we have this strange arrangement that it's like if every resolver is synchronous, it's synchronous. If at least one resolver is asynchronous, it's asynchronous. So it's hard to, you cannot ensure that with linters or anything. And like it's pretty complex. So I feel like async iteratable definitely coming after TypeScript conversion. And because like, like we need to test for memory leaks and other stuff. I just don't want to add mechanism that is half-baked or not working in execution phase because people feel like we expect people to use it. And if people create issues, it's hard to debug issues and to ensure it with tests and stuff initially. So actually like depending on time frame after TypeScript conversion, if we do it fast, we can still like prolong alpha beta stage and merge async iteratables there in master and fix it after we merge in master because I'm more relaxed to bring it up on alpha or beta releases new feature and like, fix it afterwards. So yeah, so basic idea is to unblock you in gathering feedback. And if you can fix, obviously peer dependency would be an issue for you because if you try to use some like Apollo server, it depends. My understanding of some version and how packages will work, it will require version without experimental stream and defer. But I feel like if you pass all the tests, Apollo guys can measure it. And you can try to communicate them. If it's hard, I can help you get in touch with them because it's like features that community wants. So I feel like they can add like one line and packages on saying experimental stream and default can be used as peer dependency.
Okay. So just to make sure I heard you. So after the TypeScript migration, that's when we'll work on merging the async iterables from resolvers. Okay.
Yeah, it's the next step, and it's like something that I'm like totally agree with. It's useful even without a stream and defer. It's not like we merging something that is not useful. I think iterable is part of JavaScript,
Right.
and stream proposal from browser stream proposal is actually use async iterable. So it's not only async iterable itself, but it's also streams, browser streams, and Dino support, for example, streams. So like I think it's useful on its own. It's just like execution is like hardest part of GraphQL.js, and like it's not real thing about like as I said, async like it's like really hard. So let's uh, let it be next step. So first step is to unblock you, and second step is async iterable. But for merging stream and defer, it should be like some community experimental phase. So people try to use it, because approach with folder is like not working. It's basically the same thing as a branch, but package became bigger.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. And even when it's not in, even before we moved everything to the experimental folder, there still was the flags that you needed to pass to the schema to turn it on. So it's not like anyone's going to use it thinking that it's a production feature.
Yeah, but we will have like new directive. So theoretically, if somebody have stream and defer, they can get like strange behavior because the stream and defer, existing stream and defer have different arguments. I'm okay with
Right.
I'm okay with if we decide to add it to spec. I'm okay with like adding stuff. Uh, I'm like I don't want to add like break an experimental feature. So experimental features that breaks people, and later we change it and it's break like people in different way.
Mm-hmm.
So like yeah, because like directives, for example, you cannot override standard directives. There is a bunch of reasons why, but basically you can't. So like it will pass validation phase, but inside the schema, it will be our default directive, not default directive.
I think that if you do, I think I set it up so that if you did pass in your own defer directive, it would not use ours.
Okay.
And it would only do our behavior if you were using ours and you pass the flag to the schema to turn it on. So
yeah. One thing, another thing is like returning async iterable. So like for
right,
everybody
of course,
who use like even if you don't pass it flag, in types you still need to handle async iterable. So every library is like
right. The type is what the breaking changes. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I think it's on the surface. If we go deeper, it would be like, but I'm totally okay with them. And I think community is okay with them if we deliver them like cool new feature like stream and defer that people not only cool, but people actually need that. It's like problem of GraphQL. Like people cited it. It's like you have one huge request, but it's like long. You need to wait for one time. So I think like the community would be okay if we break stuff by adding it. I'm like not okay if we break stuff and later change it.
Right.
So yeah, but like I'm like totally accessible not only on this call. Don't feel like if you have some issue or stuff, we can discuss in Slack and issues and like, any other way. It's like you don't need to wait like next month when we have a next call.
Okay, I think I'll reach out maybe next week and let you know what I'm working on with as far as the memory leak.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to write a good test for it, but I'll let you know what I did.
Yeah, I have some ideas on where to start, but yeah, not to prolong this
Right.
for indefinite. Yeah. So if anybody else have like anything that cannot wait for a next call, because we will definitely have a call next month and we can discuss stuff. And as I said, you can reach me on Slack or on the issue or like in other ways. But if you have something like that you want to discuss right now, we can still do that.
Advan, thank you very much for your time and all the effort you put on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, thank you for setting this up.
Yeah, it's a learning experience for me also. I like, yeah, I'm like just learning how to do community management stuff. So if you see some issue with that or suggestion, you can reach me like publicly or privately, what best work for you. And definitely doing call next month, and I will ping you all in issue, and hopefully we'll have agenda and all official stuff by that time, so you can add your items in agenda and add yourself. Basically the same work for as GraphQL working group. Yeah. It was nice to speak with you. Like, bye, and let's keep in touch and meet in 1 month.
Bye.